Hello everybody and welcome back to Board Game Nation. Today we're going to go through another awesome game. I guess you'd call it a Euro game, but some people would call it a card game or a civilization game. Today we're going to be playing... There we go. Imperial Settlers. Okay, let's get to it. Alright everybody, let's play some Imperial Settlers. So the first thing we're going to do is to go through the basic components that's involved. So everybody has their own deck of faction cards. So I'll be playing the Egyptians, and I will also be playing the barbarians. Okay, then there's a common deck, which is a ton of cards here. There's a score tracker, and you can see that there's going to be 5 rounds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rounds, and then the game's over. In the wood department, we've got fruit. We've got people. We've got stone. And we've got wood. Over here we've got gold, and gold can be any, is a wild for wood, apples, and stone. Okay, so gold can be these 3, but not the other way around. So that's gold, and then we've got raise tokens, and raise tokens is the ability to do a couple things, but they allow you to destroy buildings from your hand or from other opponents to get goods. We've got shields here, and that is about it, okay? And then there's victory points. So the first thing what we're going to do in the game is to draw our cards, and we get 2 of these, and then we get 2 of our own faction cards. Okay, so I've already done that. We've got 2 common cards and 2 faction cards, and we've also got 2 common cards and 2 faction cards. Okay, now that we've gone through all the components in the game, we're going to go through the actual course of the game. So there's 4 different parts of each round. And the first is the lookout phase, where we're going to draw new cards. Then it's the the production phase, where we get all our production. And then there's the action stage. And then finally the cleanup stage. So let's first talk about the lookout phase. So what's going to happen is you're going to draw, everybody's going to get a card from their deck of special cards, faction cards, there it is. And then we're going to draw 2 cards and then 3 cards for a 2-player game. And what we're going to do is we're going to draw cards equal to 1 more than the player. So we're doing a little 2-player game here. So we would draw 2 cards. And then the starting player gets to choose which card they want. So let's say that the Egyptians are the starting player. So we're going to choose... What do we have here? I'm just looking before I explain everything. And I think we will get this one, which will allow us to get some gold for each time we put down a red card. So there you go. Then the barbarians will go. Let's have a look. I'm just going to have a look. Yeah, okay. Okay. So we're going to take this one. I already kind of know that this one's the best one. And it's a production card, and I'll explain that too. So then the last card disappears, goes into the discard, and then we draw once again. And this time, the last player is going to pick, and the first player is going to pick last. Okay? So this time, we are going to choose this card. I think this is good, and that's production of 2 guys. And if we look at this, we get to keep guys in storage for each round. So I think that's a good one for the second player, the Barbarians. And this one, oh yeah, production. You get 1 extra card per round. So I think that's good. So we've done that phase. Now the next phase that we would be doing would be to get our resources and our production. And as you can see, there's no cards lined up here. So we're just going to get our production here. So the Barbarians are going to get 5 guys, 1 raise token, and 1 shield. Now, if we had more production cards on the side here, this is the production column from left to right, then we would get those as well. Okay, but we're only getting this. So we get our 5 guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1 raise token and a shield. Now everybody gets one of these shields every round, and you only have 1 of them, and it will allow you to kind of protect one of the buildings that you build. So there you go, and we do the same for the Egyptians. So they're going to get 3 people, 1 rise, 1 gold, and a shield. So let's do that. So we've done our production, and now we can do our actions. And this is the heart of the game. This is what we're going to explain now. So we've got our hand of cards that we can build, we can make deals with, we can do a whole bunch of things. So let's talk about what you can do for your actions. There's a couple of things. I'm going to go through them. The first one is to build a location. So to build one of these cards, right? Either a faction card or a common card. The other thing would be to make a deal. That's where you take a faction card, and faction cards are the ones with these blue symbols here, and you make a deal with it. And I'll explain that. The next thing is to raise or destroy a building out of your hand or somebody else's actual board. And you do these with these raise tokens, and I'll explain that. And then the last thing is you can do an action. You can do actions for action abilities down here, which I'll explain. And finally, you can always do this special action, which is spend 2 guys to get a wood, a stone, or an apple, or an extra card. So you can always spend 2 of these like that. If we have any more resources left over, they're all discarded. Everything is discarded except for if you have one of these special powers which allows you to hold a certain good. For instance, you can hold meeples for the Barbarians, and the Egyptians get to hold gold. Okay? So let's first talk about what cards are. Now cards, there's various different ones, and I've got a couple of them out here. And there's 3 different types of cards. Okay? There are production cards, and they will say production on them. Then there is feature cards, and they'll say feature on them. And there's action cards. Now, feature cards and action cards and production cards were going to be laid out on your board. So the top row is for production. So if it's a common building, like this one is, you would put it on the right-hand side. If it was a production building for a faction, so it had your faction type on it, it would go on the left-hand side. If it was a feature card, feature cards are basically things all with ongoing effects, and I'll explain them. and they go in the middle row. And you can tell where it goes because the roads, there's 4 roads in each direction, and it also says faction. And the next one is, production is here. That's production right there, and you can see the roads go this way, and down. And then finally, action cards have it going up and to the side, and it says action, okay? So what do all these cards mean, and what do they do? Well, the production cards are simple. Every round during the production stage, remember there's the lookout phase where you get more cards and then you produce all your goods. During this round, if you have any of these cards, they're going to produce. Now this one is going to produce, right there it says produce 1 card. So I would get to draw an extra card if this card was in my tableau, okay? To build this card in my tableau, I can use an action. So in the action phase, I would just spend my action to spend 2 wood, and immediately I get to build this card. Okay? Now, once this card is built, if it's a production card, I immediately get the production. So I immediately get that card. And now, from now on, for the rest of the game, all the 5 rounds, I'm going to, or if it was done in the first round, all the next 4 rounds, I'm going to get 1 extra card. Also, if you can see here, it says building bonus. So this building bonus means that when it is built, and only when it is built, you get its benefit, which is another card. So immediately after I build this for 2 wood, I get 2 extra cards. So let's do that. I'm going to do... Actually, I'm not going to do that yet. We'll explain it as we go along. So the next thing is a feature card. And a feature card works the same way. I'm going to speak about the raise soon, but first I'm just going to talk about these. The feature card has a feature, and it says feature. Each time you build gold buildings, which if you can see, this has a gold column on it. The last one had a blue, this one has a blue, this one has a pink. So there's different colors, and that's what they mean, this sidebar. And it says every time you build a gold building, gain $1 and 1 victory point. So that's a great thing. I could spend 2 stone and a wood to build that, and that would be built on my right-hand side because it's a common card, right? And you can tell it's not a common card because it doesn't have one of these blue marks on it, right? So this can be built there. And it's activated, so from now on, if I do an action that activates this, I get that benefit, and it stays there. So the next type of card is an action card. And action cards are quite simple. You build them. This one's going to cost you 1 wood and 1 stone. And then it says on your turn, so it goes around the table, and everybody does their action. When it comes back to you, you can do this action and spend your action to spend 1 worker to draw 1 card, which is great. So the next thing to talk about here is that usually these cards can only be activated once per round. Once they're activated, it would be laying down here, right, because we built it. You would take your activation, whatever you need to activate it. So for instance, I could put this guy down here, and he stays there to indicate that I have activated this building. And I can no longer activate it again, except if it says so. And right here you can see may be activated twice. So I could activate this building twice. So we'll be able to do it 1 more time after activating this. So there's the different types of cards, okay? And these are all common cards, but the faction cards, which are the same, they typically don't have the raise marker, which I haven't talked about, but they have this blue thing. And they're typically a little bit more powerful, but they work the same way. Now, a little bit more with these cards. Right here, you notice that these have a star here, which means that if they're in your tableau at the end of the game, they're going to be worth 1 victory point. The faction buildings, they're going to be worth 2 victory points. Okay? The next thing you need to know is in faction buildings, there's these 2 marks here for each person's faction, and that indicates how many cards of this type are in your faction deck. Okay, so there's 2 of these towers. Okay, now a little bit more about cards. This one, I just wanted to point this out. This is a faction card, and as you can see, it says feature. Sorry, not a faction card. This is a feature card. It says feature, and then it has a dash, which means nothing. There is no ongoing effect when you build this, but it says building bonus, which means the one-time thing that you get when you build it. You get 1 victory point for each pink building you in your empire. Additionally, draw 1 card when you build it. So this you could get a bunch of victory points, and bam, you could get an extra card. So that's nice. Okay, so that's basically building, and I'm going to show you how that works. But first we're going to talk about the next thing you can do, which is make a deal. And you can only make a deal with faction cards, and it has to do with this blue thing. So you can say, it says make a deal. So what's going to happen with this is that you can spend a food. So if I had a food or an apple, let's say, I could spend this apple to flip this card over from my hand and tuck it underneath my game board. If I can ever get this under my game board. How about we do that? Then, because this is a deal, I immediately get 1 wood, and from now on, every production phase, I will get a wood right there. So this is kind of another way to use a card. So that's making a deal. So the next thing we're talking about is raising. So raising is very simple. I can spend 1 raise token to take one of the cards in my hand and look at the raise part here. And I can discard this card to get whatever is there. So I would get a star or a stone. A star and a stone, and I can discard it by discarding this raise. So I would discard that and get the star and stone. Now, the next thing you can do, well, you cannot do these when this is already built. So let's say we built this. I could not raise it once it's built, but somebody else could. So let's say the Egyptians wanted to raise. They could use, or I could use, 2 raise tokens to now raise this building. And what this means is we flip this building over, and I no longer get the benefit. Okay? So that's quite important. I use these 2 raises, discard them. As the Egyptians will get whatever the raise benefit is. I flip this card over, and now it's just a foundation. It's basically just rubble. We burnt it down to the ground. Also, the player, so the barbarians, would get 1 wood from the supply for their destroyed building. Okay, but destroyed buildings are not necessarily just wasted, because there are certain buildings in this game, here we go, that are faction buildings. So this is a faction building, it's got a blue thing, that have something on here that you must spend to build them. So this says 2 wood and a house. Well, what that house means is that you need to have, let's say we have 2 cards here, To build this building, and it is a production building, so I would have to place it here, I would need 2 wood, right, and another building to destroy. So that means I go over to my common buildings, and I have to destroy one of these buildings. Well, this one's already a foundation, so I could destroy this building, and really, you know, it's not really any skin off my back because it was kind of already destroyed anyways. Now, if this wasn't destroyed by the Egyptians, if I played this card, I would have to spend 2 wood, and I would have to get rid of one of these buildings because I don't have any other common buildings in any of the other sections. So I would have to choose. Do I want to get rid of my wood production, or do I want to get rid of my raised production? Okay? So building the faction buildings are a little bit more difficult because you need to destroy a common building to build them. Okay, so we've talked about raising. Now, let's say I really want this was destroyed, and I really want one of this building. I really need this building. Well, I could, on my turn, for a free kind of thing, I can put my shield on there. And what the shield does is it makes it more expensive. So instead of just 2 raised tokens to destroy this building, the Egyptians would have to spend 3. 1 more because of the shield, and it kind of protects it. Okay? So the shields are good. Now, once you place that shield in a round, this will go off at the end of the round. It will disappear. But once you place it during the round, you cannot move it. So you're protecting that one building and that one building only. Okay. So that's quite a bit of the rules. I've explained how to build the buildings, how to raise. I've talked about activating an action location when they're down here. Where's an action? When they're down here. And I've explained this, right? So you can always spend 2 guys to get a wood or a stone or an apple or a card. The interesting thing with this special action is that to kind of do it to save time, you can do it once, but on the same turn, you can do it multiple times. So I could get, for instance, an apple and a stone in only 1 action. Okay? You don't have to do it. It just allows you to do it. Okay, so let us go through a bit of a run-through of the game to kind of get you a feel of how this all comes together. Okay, so I'm going to split up the video here. I'm going to have this, the first video is going to be just how to play, or yeah, how to play. The second one, it's going to be the run-through where I'm going to play a little bit, and then the third one will be my, my review. So if you're interested, go into the notes attached to this this video, and you can see the other videos. Okay, bye-bye.